Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Blade, issue number 3. This is called Mother of Evil, part 3. This was a fantastic book. I was a little annoyed by the ending because there was a buildup that unfortunately just did not actually happen. Little coitus interruptus. Latin for you. Don't worry, there's plenty of Latin in this book. Let's get talking about all that good stuff, but first, credit where credit is due. Brian Hill is the writer, Elena Casagrande and Valentina Pinti are the pencilers. That red on black is like the blood on the midnight sky. It's a little weird color for me to see. Anyway, Elena and Roberto Poggi and Valentina did the inks. KG Diaz did the color art. VC's Corey Petit on letters. Elena and Jordi Belair did the cover art. And it looks like there are 2 variant covers out there, and they're all awesome. You know what annoys me? I'm sitting here wearing a Punisher shirt because there's no such thing as a Blade shirt. At least I don't think so. That's one of those things, man. I just want you to stop and think about that for a moment. Brian Hill is a badass writer, and I'm so happy he's back on comics. And I am beyond ecstatic that he's on Blade, even though I had a bit of a problem later on in this. My point is, can we finally get like a cool Blade shirt out there? I mean, even if it just has, I don't need to see his face on a shirt or anything like that. Just the logo, that badass logo. You know, say maybe like a pair of vampire fangs hanging out from the bottom or something like that, and a little drizzle of blood. Just something. Something like, is that so hard? Is that so much to ask for? Put it out just in this comic book alone. Anybody who wants this will do a print on demand. Come on, man. I want a freaking Blade shirt. Make me go out and make my own. I'm just saying. I'm not going to make it publicly available. But so the Adana is the main bad gal in this. It's interesting because I didn't think about Adana. I knew the name. I knew it wasn't anything in mysticism or anything along those lines, but I knew the name, and then I decided to look it up after the first couple of pages, the opening pages of this comic book. Adana is that place, that area in Turkey where I believe that's where the Armenian genocide actually started, or was that the entirety of it? I don't know enough about the Armenian genocide, but I know that was the big thing about it. If that is where the power of this Adana is coming from, holy crap, I love it. And Hill is just that crazy to do something like that. I mean, crazy in a very warm and loving way in this particular regard. I love the idea of this. Like, this is fantastic. I also like the idea that, I don't know about spoilers in the beginning of the comic book. Blade isn't permanently mind controlled in this because we saw that he was kind of puppeted in the end of the previous issue, and that was a little annoying. I always hate the idea of our heroes being mind controlled unless there's going to be a good story that goes with it. Brian Hill's writing style is typically what was that one amazing thing that he did? He never got me that issue number 1 for American. Damn, that's messed up. Anyway, he promised me an issue number 1 signed from him, and never happened, even though he's here in Toronto all the time. Whatever it is, what it is. I'm messing. I don't like it when heroes are mind controlled for a particularly long time. And Brian Hill is the kind of writer that typically he will write fast and furious, right? And here, there's a lot of sitting down at a diner stuff, which is fine because he can write a slow burn. But when he gets to his action scenes, they're usually powerful, which is why the ending of this book shocked me in a very negative way. Blade is one of those characters. Let me just go into a little bit of history of vampires here very quickly. There was never a good vampire in Marvel, ever, until all of a sudden people started making good vampires. And I'm talking about vampires that sided on the or erred on the side of goodness, lawful activities, right? Vampires were always, if you look at it in a Dungeons and Dragons alignment sense, chaotic evil. They couldn't be anything but. Even chaotic neutral would be hard for them to do. It'd be chaotic evil. They were horrible, terrible creatures who were all, for the most part, under the blood sway, this burning desire for blood. And that kept them under control unless Dracula, the Lord of the Vampires, or Varn before him, came along and decided, I want to control you specifically. The Lord of the Vampires was the only vampire who was capable of not being, consumed by this lust of blood. Even though it was still there, he could control it, and he wasn't so easily mind manipulated. Vampires always had an extremely weak psyche, a very weak ability to resist temptation or suggestion or mind control, or even just hurting, for the most part, by anything that was considered an alpha over them, right? And even then, that alpha had to beware, but Dracula had a mind control over them. So in his presence, they obeyed him. Out of his presence, they obeyed their hunger. And there was always that internal conflict. There could never possibly be a good vampire. It was impossible. And then they started making him it's not that big of a deal anymore. And that's why vampires, for the most part, have become boring AF in the Marvel comics. Because now you can have vampires who are, oh no, but I'm one of the good ones. No, there's no such thing. Blade is the closest you're going to get because he's a Damphir. He's half vampire, half human. And it was a very unique circumstance, the way that it happened. Bitten as he was being born. His mother was bitten as he was being born. So just that taste of vampiric blood, his body dying before, or turning undead, before he was born. And then the umbilical cord breaks. And it's like, okay, so when you think, stop and think about the genius of that way back in the day when Marv Wolfman and Gene Cologne made him. It's like that herd immunity kind of thing, or more than that. What is it? You get exposed to chicken pox or whatever, and then you become immune to it because you survive that initial thing. Or you think about the way that vaccinations are supposed to work. I'm not talking about the jab. I'm talking about regular, like polio vaccination and stuff like that, right? These inoculations. You get a dead version of the virus that is 4 times as highly concentrated as the virus itself would be. So you get exposed to a large dose of a dead virus, and your body goes, oh, that's messed up. Ooh, wait, I suddenly realized how to break the board. My boys are breaking boards in karate right now. Just got to purple belt. Little congratulations in the comments. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing, right? Goes white, yellow. This is Shotokan karate. White, yellow, orange, green, purple. Right after that is going to be blue, and then I think red, brown, and black. And I believe that's it. So they're quite literally halfway to black belts. I'm saying I'm proud of them. I started when I was 8. My oldest son started when he was 8. My youngest boy started when he was 6. These guys are dangerous. And they're already, well, they can heel palm through the red boards, but they can't actually punch through the red boards yet. So, and that's why my knuckles a little bit red and whatnot, because I'm showing them how to break through the board. And I haven't done it in such a long time. I can only go through the brown board. I couldn't actually do it through the black board. But I'm also like holding it on the ground. I don't have anybody to hold it for me. There's nobody in the house strong enough to hold a board for me. So when we go back to the dojo, talk to the sensei, be like, you hold this for a second? Anyway, you got to stop and brag about your kids. Being able to live for somebody else when you get older is an amazing thing. Okay, back to the comic book. Blade is unique in that regard because he got inoculated against vampirism while having all of the benefits and none of the drawbacks. 100% unique, which is why I don't like the idea of Blade's daughter. I don't care who wrote the character. I don't like the idea of Blade's daughter. Blade is, for all intents and purposes, an immortal. He doesn't need a daughter, right? We have children, so that's why I brought up the children thing, because I already had in my mind to talk about it. Blade doesn't need to commit to immortality through his children. He himself is immortal. He's like an Asgardian. He could be killed, but he's not going to die of old age, right? Like he's immune to diseases, which means that there is nothing that's going to eventually break down his cellular abilities, and he's not going to die at any point, though he can actually be killed or not drink and wither away that way. But there's still ways for vampires to come back from that. Dracula has, and Blade is, well, but Blade also has a ridiculously strong mind because he does still have that urge to feast, and he always deals with that. But with his unique biology, it's also given him a very powerful psyche, so he can resist that blood urge. So somebody controlling him could really only happen for a short period of time. So while I can understand some people would be, because I try to put myself in other people's shoes all the time. While I can understand lots of people being upset over Blade not being, not having more of a challenge against this person who's puppeting him, it just makes the most sense in the world that it would only be for moments. Like more than 5 minutes would shock and awe me if and not in a good way, if Blade were mind controlled in any way, shape, or form past even 5 minutes. So 30 seconds or so of this was, to me, perfectly fine. Oh, there's the threat of a threat, but when you think about who Blade is, boom, done. I would have liked to see a little explanation there, a little badass. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I resist daily? And just, have that spit coming off of his fangs as he goes in and tears this thing apart. That would have gotten me hot and bothered. That would have made me have to go off to the side and maybe rub one off a little bit. I'm just saying, because that would have been like, yeah, right? But instead, this was still good. So it's still within the spirit of Blade. Now, what's not in the spirit of Blade? And this is the part that actually annoyed me. And from this point on, guys, spoilers. In fact, maybe I can remember to put an ad right here just to detract some people from looking at the end. The end of this comic book is actually after a lengthy bar talk where some chick is talking some smack to Blade. The whole time I'm laughing at this because there's this dumb chick who's talking all this smack. Blade could snap her neck, could do whatever he wants to this chick. And I mean, what's she going to do? You know what I'm saying? But he's taking the insults, he's laughing about it and da-da-da-da-da-da. And at the end of the day, a man has to be able to do that. You've got to be ridiculously strong, and you've got to be able to control yourself. Very few characters represent that more than Blade. You could think of, like in the Marvel comics, you could say Wolverine. You could say, even though he's less in control of himself than Blade is, and he's more of a tragic character in that regard, but he is still animalistic in a sense. So control over himself, Wolverine, absolutely. Captain America, because all virtues point to Captain America, right? Aside from that, I mean, like, try and think of some of the other people who can put up with insults in a certain way, you know what I'm saying, and not react, not and laugh them off, and not in a sad sort of way. Like Peter Parker can't even do that. You talk about Uncle Ben and da-da-da, he's going to get a little triggered. He's going to get pissed off. He's going to come back at you, right? At some point, he will. With Blade, you could diss the guy all you want, and it's fine. Nobody's going to get through his skin because he is more confident in himself than most characters, and for very good reason. When people talk about some of the most powerful street-level characters out there, there are two that come to mind, well, three, that come to my mind where it's like, I know they're classified as street level, but there's so much more. The first being Spider-Man, the third being Luke Cage, right? Luke Cage, like, yes, he's street level, but is he really street level? And the second one, though, being Blade. This is a character who could do so much, but he stays on the streets because that's where the vampires are, and that's where his passion is. If he did get called up to the Avengers by somebody who's actually going to do something good with him, hey, by all means, I could see that. But Blade's not a team player, right? No, I found so much good in this, right? That he was taking the insults and not even laughing them off, but making a joke about the jokes, you know? You can't get through. You can't hurt him with insults. But once he got attacked, once Blade gets attacked, Blade is a badass. When those fangs come out, that's your ass. Like, that's it. It's over. This chick could hurl all the insults she wants when he's calm. But when he lets go, when he caves in, and remember, that's not losing control. Losing control means he goes after the humans and starts drinking their blood. So even when Blade loses control, it's not like when Hulk or Thor or Wolverine lose control. This is the most in control, out of control you could possibly imagine. That's who Blade is. This cat, when he loses control, like, forget it. All bets are off with everybody because he will target the things that he needs to target. And you're going down. This chick could talk all the crap in the world. I don't care. She could, talk about, oh, I'm hot. You ain't the hottest, bitch. Oh, I'm rich. You ain't the richest, bitch. You know what I'm saying? You could be the baddest mofo low down round this here town. Ain't gonna matter because you show enough ain't the baddest. Especially when you're standing in the presence of Blade. No, wrong answer, fool. So some of you guys caught the reference that I just made. Bruce Leroy right there. Anyway, what bothered me was that Blade did get pissed off at here. He got hurt. A real threat came. He about let go, and then he gets stopped. That pissed me off. And I get it. Here's where the big spoiler is. It's Doctor Strange. I don't think that should have happened. I don't think he should have been stopped. And I hope that, look, it's Hill. In Hill we trust. In Hill I certainly trust. But I was a little bothered by the idea that he got pissed and then was stopped. And if anybody's going to stop him, it's going to be Doctor Strange. But there should at least be like a backhand. Because Strange is a pompous bastard, you know? There should at least be a backhand or something there. Strange needs to bleed a little for that. I'm just saying. But it is what it is. Yeah, for the most part, everything else in this comic book, though, I really dug. It really felt like Blade. And that's what I care about the most in any comic book. If a character feels like the character that they were meant to be, I'm down. Keep going, keep going. Make the character a little bit different. That's cool. As long as he feels like the character's supposed to feel, bro, I'm willing to ride this ride out with you and see where you're going with this character. Let's go. You know, I'm seatbelted in, right? I should get a seatbelt for this chair. Maybe some like bucket seat straps, right? Anyway, 5-point harness. I'm looking forward to the next issue. Kind of hoping Doctor Strange gets a punch to the nose by the end of this, though. Doesn't have to be the next comic book. By the end, if Blade gives him a little punch in the nose or something like that, just, remember, I know who you are. Don't you ever forget who I am. That'd be badass. Also, just for the sake of conversation, the theological stories in here, I wanted to bring that up really quick because Lightbringer is the appropriate name for Lucifer Morningstar in the Latin, right? He's not actually called Lucifer Morningstar. A lot of people don't actually read the Bible and whatnot. And I know that I know about the mystical side of things, the occult, Aleister Crowley, OTO, all that good stuff. But I'm also a pretty avid reader of religious texts, the Quran, the Bible, the Upanishads, you know what I'm saying? The Lotuses, all of them. I believe all of them. Anyway, the Granth, I haven't read the Granth in a long time. I should go back and take a look at that. But anyway, so I like where the religious aspect of this was going. I do like that this is a very Latinized version of who Lucifer is. Mind you, Lucifer wasn't a guard of heaven at any point, right? He never had the fiery star. I just wanted to point this out really quick. In actual biblical understandings, Lucifer was, this is why J.R.R. Tolkien is so amazing. When you look at the comparisons here, Lucifer wasn't a badass, right? That sword, the fiery sword, was made for the cherubim to keep. Once Adam and Eve were booted from paradise, from Eden, they were booted out, and then God created into life this fiery sword given to the cherubim in order to keep anything out of heaven, to guard the gates of heaven, right? Eden is at the gates of heaven. It was the most minor of the heavens, of all the heavens that we could possibly achieve. Um, what do you call it? Lucifer was never given that sword. He never had that sword. Later on, it's Michael who also has a sword of light, of fire, right? Often confused between the two. And Lucifer was never called the morning star. He was called a morning star. And this is where the English language is actually really important to understand, because it does come from those Latin roots and those German roots specifically. Articles. There's only 2 articles, technically 3, but like parts of speech, noun, verb, adverb, and what's it called? Adjective, right? And like all the different various points of speech, okay? Subject, conjugate, all these different parts of speech. Remember, I was an English professor for a long time. There's articles. There's a and the. Those are the only 2 articles. Technically, there's also an, but that's because only works when a consonant sound, not really a consonant letter, but a consonant sound comes afterwards. So if you're talking about like a banana, a pear, whatever, you know what I'm saying? A butt, you know what I'm saying? But if it's a vowel sound that comes afterwards or anything alike to it, aligned to it, you would say N, like N apple, N orange, N apricot, right? But you'd also say like, it would be N honor. Well, there's an H that comes after it, yes, but not the sound. You don't sound out the H, which is why we go by the sound, not by the actual written letter. All of these things are important to really understand the English language, right? So when we wouldn't say it would be honor. If you're going to write it, you'd think to write, no, you would still write an honor, because only the British would actually pronounce the H. It would be I don't know if they say honor, but they'll say H instead of H. So American English, an honor, because we don't pronounce the H there. Why did I got that Superman curl coming down? I feel like Kurt Swan drew me today. Anyway, so Lucifer in the book of Isaiah was called a morning star. He fell like lightning, like and otherwise translated to like a morning star. Jesus in the book of Revelations is called the morning star. So there's a apple and there's the apple. I know an apple, but you get what I'm saying. Like you could still say it like that in descriptive term. There's a apple, a banana. There's the banana, right? Hey, can I get an apple? Yeah, here you go. Hey, can I get the apple or the apple that's right over there? Oh, yeah, sure. Can I get the apple that still has the stem in it? Can I get the apple that's in the refrigerator separate from the other apples that are out in the fruit dish, right? When you're targeting something specific. So there's stars. You could pick a star, or there's the star, meaning the sun, right? And Jesus is compared to the sun. Jesus is called the morning star in the book of Revelations. And that happens lots and lots of times where there's this comparison between Satan and Jesus in the Bible. In 1 Peter, what the heck is it called? He's called, crap. This was actually one that I was just looking at not too long ago, which is why I remember this. Oh, for crying out loud. He was called, 1 Peter, the lion, the lion, Assad. One of the things, I speak in Arabic to my boys when they're doing their thing, their karate stuff, because parents aren't really supposed to be calling out to the kids when they're sparring, but I'll say certain things. So I'll say like, Assad, which means lion. So, roar like a lion, get aggressive, saying? And I'll say other things when I want them to calm down a little bit, but I'll speak in Arabic to the boys. So this is a good way to teach them some Arabic, right? But anyway, so in 1 Peter, Satan is compared to a lion. But in book of Revelations, Jesus is called the Lion of Judah. right? So all of these things are actually they're commonplace. Anyway, that's all. I just wanted to point out those things right there for the sake of confusion and misconfusion, because the Marvel universe isn't like DC universe has God and the angels and all that stuff in there. The Marvel universe was never meant to have God and so on and so forth, right? Jack Kirby and Stan Lee are considered gods, the one above all, because they're the creators of these characters. So the creators of the Marvel universe, because the Marvel universe was never meant to be some mythology that we're all supposed to follow. DC, they have established them as the modern day mythology. So that would be the modern mythology. Marvel would be a mythology, right? Nobody's going to really make the comparisons of the Avengers to the Roman or the Greek gods, but you by default kind of have to when it comes to the Justice League, right? So there's that. Wow, this is a really long video about Blade issue number 3, but whatever, I'm having fun. So with I don't know. I see it as interesting that more and more, and of course it makes sense that with Ghost Rider it would have started that way, but I still don't like the idea of it personally. That's one thing that I've never particularly liked about um, uh, that they would do with Marvel comic books. Keep actual religion out of it. Sure, there could be the idea of, oh, Christianity exists out there. This exists out there. J.M. DeMatteis, I think it was. Yeah, or was it Straczynski? Crap. Who wrote that one Thor run? I always confuse those two, man. Their names just seem so same to me. Anyway, they did that one run with Thor where the one preacher, the priest, kept coming to him and saying, okay, but you're not really God. You're a God, sure, but you're not really the God. And that's the thing that you should be telling people. And it's like, I didn't really like that. I didn't like what they were doing. It was not the way that I wanted to see Thor humbled, but whatever. If you enjoyed it, you enjoyed it. But I particularly didn't enjoy that. Anyway, um, yeah, I believe that the stories of God, whatever religion it is, should be, for the most part, kept out. If it's modern day considered a mythology, or for the longest time been considered mythology, by all means throw it in, because it will work in the idea of lesser gods. Meanwhile, there's the one above all. Then there's, I didn't like the idea of the first firmament that much, but I get it. Saying it at least fits. I mean, Ewing has that appeal to him. The Living Tribunal, there's Death and Eternity, there's Galactus, there's all these different levels, right, of gods, and then there's the Eternals. Actually, above the Eternals would be the Greek, the pantheons, right, with the Norse being just a bit above that, because Odin has always consistently been the All Father, while the others are just sky. So he's a Sky Father, just like Zeus and Osiris and so many others, but he's the All Father, so he's a step above all of them because that's his title that he was given. Thor doesn't need to be the All Father, but whatever. That's the way that it's written in the comic books right now. Also by Ewing, but he's not the one who did that, mind you. Anyway, I don't believe that actual like biblical or Quran or anything like. I don't believe that they should be anything more than words passing by, just things that are said in general in the Marvel Universe, because the Marvel Universe is actually supposed to be comic books to me. But this is also just part of my philosophy. Maybe I should make a separate video on that alone. But anyway, that's a part of my understanding of the way the comic books are supposed to be written, specifically the Marvel Universe. With DC, absolutely. God is the highest, and he has his archangels and all that stuff, and yes, absolutely. The wrath of God, the justice of God, all those things, absolutely, because they were already made to exist. But that's not the way the Marvel Universe was meant to be created. So I don't appreciate when I see stuff like that. So when I see like Lucifer is brought in and da-da-da-da, it's like, okay, so it's kind of like at this point, it's kind of demeaning because we already know what the actual hierarchy is. And the idea of having an alternate universe God in the Marvel Universe, things like that I just don't appreciate. I'm getting older, and I think that for the most part, we're all tops spinning at various speeds. And as I'm getting older, I'm 48 now, 48 and a half. And tops, when they start to lose speed, they start to teeter to one side or the other, and you sometimes you got to wonder which side am I going to fall on, right? I guess like a dreidel. But yeah, so I don't know. I think I'm just getting a little bit more religious as I'm getting older. Also, it is what it is. All right, guys, that's going to be the end of this. I will talk to y'all later. I hope you like this comic book. I definitely did. Issue 4 will absolutely be read. I'll talk to y'all later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.